SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Award-winning customer service with customized insurance plans at affordable rates made specifically to fit your exact needs. For auto, home, or life coverage, reach out to Ben Farrell with Shelter Insurance of Corinth. We are your shield. We are your shelter.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Good morning.
Way past 21.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Today is the 6th of May, 2025. Glad to be with you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for starting your day right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Invite you to join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home work and on the go, backed by local 24/7 support. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Glad to have you along for the ride as we start a new day. Some days it's easier than others to roll out of the sack. You have that, Lance?
Oh, of course. Are you kidding me?
It's like, even if you get up, you're like, shake the cobwebs out for a little while.
Yeah, it takes a little, about 30 minutes for me to really even get into the spirit of the day.
Yeah.
I'm usually grumpy
you don't want to have
out
a
of it.
Deep conversation within the first 15 minutes of waking up.
No, usually it's just like I have to hurry up and let the cat out because he's been cooped up for 5 minutes and hadn't had food, so you got to do that first. So we'll have a little conversation and then I start kind of waking up but once the cold water hits after about 5 or 10 minutes of a hot shower, then I turn the cold as it'll go. That's about when I start going, oh, okay.
It's like, all right.
Yeah, all right.
Do this all over again.
Get crunk up here.
C Spire text line. Richard, just want to confirm that Donald Trump has not been elected Pope yet.
Not yet.
I have not seen the papal smoke to make me think that has happened. I have not seen it. But a lot of people are big mad. I mean big mad over Donald Trump, the White House, retweeting or posting a picture of Trump in full Pope regalia that was AI generated, no less. Big mad. Insensitive, sacrilegious, making fun of the Catholics, barely have the Pope in the ground, and here he is out making fun. Or it was a joke. Also possible. But if you hate somebody already, then it's not possible to have a joke.
Yeah, you don't like their sense of humor.
I wonder if any of those same people laughed when Christians complained about the scene at the Olympic opening ceremonies.
Yeah,
with the open mocking of Christianity. Wonder if any of the people that are mad at Donald Trump now thought that was funny or laughed at the Christians who were upset about that.
Ooh. Almost forgot about that.
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. 51 degrees where I sit right now. Going to be sunny and high of 78 today in Oxford. Byhalia, you got partly cloudy skies during the morning hours. Going to be a little overcast this afternoon, high near 80. Starkville, cloudy, stray shower, thunderstorm possible, 78. Winds out of the east to southeast at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Raleigh, Mississippi, cloudy. Some occasional rain showers. Southern part of the state going to deal with that today. High of around 75. Winds at 10 to 15. 70% the chance of rain today in Raleigh. Same thing for you, Picayune. Showers early, becoming a steady rain later in the day. High of 78. Winds 10 to 20 miles an hour out of the east-southeast, 70% chance of rain. About a half an inch is what the forecast is saying for you in South Mississippi there in Picayune. Sigmund Freud was born on this day in 1856. Australian neurologist and the father of the Freudian slip, or psychology. Born in Freiburg in the Austrian Empire. Sigmund Freud.
Yeah, the dream guy. Love digging into the dreams. And are you one of those? Do you like trying to remember the dream and figure out any significance to it, or do you just wake up and go,
no, I'm a simple guy, Lance.
Simple guy.
That takes complex thinking, and I am not that complex of a thinker.
Yeah. He loved that. Was one of his things. He thought that was wishful thinking, was what you were dreaming. And man, that's sometimes I've had some crazy ones where I'm like, man, I don't know how that got in there, but it did. What was I watching on TV, or what did I eat before? So every now and again, I'll have one like that. And I'm like, man, I got to figure this one out. That was a little crazy.
This day in 1931, the great Willie Mays was born, the American Baseball Hall of Famer, center fielder. Listen here. This is 24-time All-Star.
That's hard to believe there.
12-time Gold Glove winner. And oh, by the way, he could swing it. 660 career home runs. MVP of the National League 1954, again in 1965. Played with the Giants and the Mets. Born in Westfield, Alabama. The great Willie Mays. The somewhat less great but talented actor, George Clooney, celebrating his 64th birthday today, 1961. Man, he was a whole lot more likable in ER than he is today. He was super likable in Ocean's 11.
I've loved his work for a long time. He's gotten a little on the liberal side. He's a great actor, though, but not much on the politics.
Well, but he that op-ed that he wrote about the president, just couldn't continue to support him. Yeah. Not this president, the previous president, after raising $25 million for him in a fundraiser. It was when I saw him then that I realized this isn't going to work. The decline is real.
It just happened right then, too.
It must be a method actor. He had to actually see it up close and personal and experience to realize that, this might not be the best thing.
Oh, man, I saw a picture or watched an interview with him about a week ago, and he had done the black hair thing. It was jet black, too. I was
really?
Like,
He's gone away from the gray?
Yeah,
it had to be for
jet black. It must have been for something.
Had to be for a role.
He looked so tanned, and then you added that jet black hair. I'm like, man, he's got to be coming off set or something for this, because it really looked out of character. But he was playing it. But yeah, he's.
I see it. I see it.
You see what I'm looking? Yeah, I was like, whoa, man, what are you doing, George?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome in the early years.
Pretty attractive fella. Let's just be honest.
Hey, he's a Dapper Dan man,
Yes, he is. The first steel plow was rolled out on this day in 1837. Blacksmith right here in the United States went by the name of John Deere. Grand Detour, Illinois. This day in 1889, Exposition Universelle, the World's Fair in Paris, opened with the recently completed Eiffel Tower serving as the entrance arch. The lifts, though, in the tower were not ready, so intrepid visitors that wanted to check out that view had to climb all 1,710 steps to reach the top. On this day in 1915, future Baseball Hall of Fame slugger George Herman Ruth, some called him Babe, hit his first Major League home run. But that's not all. In the game in which he hit his first Major League home run, he pitched 12 innings in a Red Sox 4-3 extra innings loss to the New York Yankees. And it was on that day when he said, I need to be a Yankee. Well, maybe not that day.
Pitching and hitting. Love the two-way player.
1937, the German airship Hindenburg explodes in flames at Lakehurst, New Jersey, killing 35 of the 97 passengers on board and 1 on the ground.
It's hard to believe when you watch that anyone lived.
My exact same thought was,
I mean, I've watched it 100 times.
Survivors?
Yeah, it blows your mind that anybody came out of that alive.
Recognize the name Roger Bannister? It was on this day in 1954 when he became the first to run a sub 4-minute mile. Did it at Iffley Road Track in Oxford, England, 3:59:40. That was moving then, and it's moving now.
Yeah, that was like every pitching coach I ever had. That was like, all right, you got to run a 4-minute mile. I'm like, why? I'm a pitcher. That's what we got to do. You never even got close, but that was always the carrot they'd hang. You got to run that. And like, come on, dude. I got to run to the mound. I never have
to run more than 100 feet in a straight line at any one point.
You got to run to that mound, man. Come on.
This day in 1968, Columbia Records releases Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison, the first live album by Johnny Cash. He recorded it earlier in the year, January of 1968, and it came out in May. 2002, 23 years ago, entrepreneur Elon Musk founded a company called SpaceX. And finally, it was this day in 2004, 21 years ago, the finale of Friends. 10th and final season, 52.5 million people watched.
From the Venable Glass.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, second day of the work week, just off and rolling. That coffee tastes extra good this morning. Bet it also tastes extra good to Jamal Roberts if he's stirring around on the West Coast. Mississippi's own received over 1 million votes during last night's episode of American Idol to advance to the competition's next round. But the bigger storyline may have been the news that he revealed on air before it was announced that he was moving on. They were playing a game called Two Truths and a Lie. Roberts gave the producers 3 options. He is a master flautist. He has a brand new baby. He can swim under the water, but not on top of it. The 2 truths: he is, in fact, a subaquatic swimmer, and he's just welcomed his 3rd child into the world. In fact, did it earlier yesterday. His 2 older daughters, Harmony and Lyric, seriously,
I like that. Yeah,
have played sporadic roles throughout the season of American Idol, jumping with excitement after he earned a golden ticket during his audition. Being on stage during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame night a couple of episodes ago, the camera's shown the 6-year-old and the 4-year-old cheering for Dad as he navigates through the singing competition. Now, Harmony and Lyric have a little sister. 27-year-old from Meridian playfully informed fans that Gianna Grace Adams is the newest member of their family. Really cool stuff.
Congratulations. I mean, what a meteoric rise.
Isn't that the
to someone well-deserved.
You can follow the rest of Robert's journey on American Idol. It's on ABC Sunday nights and Monday nights. Next 2 episodes a few days away, 11th and 12th of May. Double Disney Night. That's the theme for the upcoming show. The season finale is on May 18th. So they're going to do some cutting. Going from 7 down to a couple and then a finalist over the next 2 weeks. There were about 20 people that were arrested Gulf Coast in the last couple of days after a Homeland Security investigation uncovered a large cockfighting operation in the Lausanne community. According to ICE officials, an ICE Homeland Security Task Force and Border Enforcement Security Task Force carried out a search of the suspected area. Authorities reported that more than 24 people were gathered in a barn around a makeshift fighting arena. The cockfighting coliseum was apparently complete with multiple rows of seats for spectators. The arena was lined with plexiglass. This is a high-tech operation.
Yeah.
The New Orleans special agent in charge from ICE said, in addition to the acts of animal cruelty perpetuated by the operators and encouraged by the participants, underground gambling operations such as these often have ties to other significant crimes, including narcotics violations, money laundering, and acts of violence. These crimes degrade the safety of our communities, and we are proud to be the ones stopping these illegal operations. So they raided the property. Apparently, it was a full schedule of bird brawls. I don't know if they had programs printed out. I think they sell like game day programs, cockfighting events.
I think it seems that they had just about everything else ready to go.
Hundreds of chickens apparently on the site equipped with sharp bladed spurs for fighting purposes. The large group of arrestees were handed a bunch of charges. Some of them illegal immigrants. Illegal guns and drugs were seized during the raid as well.
Hadn't heard of a cockfighting operation in a long time. And that was, 20 people in a makeshift arena with seats and plexiglass.
Inside a barn?
Inside a barn. You got gambling going on, and that was some kind of party there.
Drugs, guns, whole deal.
And then you had the agent, DeLone. He's from New Orleans. It sounds like he might have grown up in that area, too.
Could be.
I don't know if that's the way FBI does that, but I've seen several with the French last name in there. Yeah. But interesting, though, that layer that you really never hear of. Things like that. You had dog fights there for a long time, and cockfights and illegal gambling operations.
You just wonder how much that's actually going on.
Yeah, it's like a throwback to a different time.
Is there more of that than we realize?
I imagine there is, yeah.
Rankin County supervisor said, about that ordinance we put in place.
Oopsie daisy, yeah.
Officials in Rankin County have reversed course on a new zoning ordinance that sparked public outcry. I think it was last Thursday they had that public meeting when hundreds of people showed up to voice their opposition to the new regulation about mobile homes. Yesterday morning, Rankin County Board of Supervisors rescinded, turned around their vote on a recently passed regulation affecting mobile home owners. The rule, which was going to require a stamp of approval from the Planning Commission early April, went into effect in the middle of the month and was met with immediate backlash from residents and from the Mississippi Manufactured Housing Association. Changed the status of mobile homes in agriculture and some residential zones from permitted use to conditional use. Meant that you'd have to go before the Department of Community Development to review any planned modifications or relocation of your manufactured home or property before a stamp of approval would be granted. Also, the ordinance said that mobile homes must be under 7 years old when they were placed in these zones. So, newer models. Owners said that they didn't fit the criteria. If they didn't fit the criteria, they thought that their property values would be diminished, impairing their ability to sell a home that could not be moved to a new parcel of land in the county. And that's one of the beauties of a mobile home, is it doesn't have to stay in the same place. It's, by definition, mobile.
Well, then you also have manufactured home, modular homes, others that were affected as well. It was a mess, honestly, being a Rankin Countyite, knowing and being on top of that. I listened to the meeting yesterday. I wish I could have gone to be a part of it, but a lot of the citizenry of Rankin County were there, spoke up, and had very good concerns that were answered by the board. So, it was one of those things where the people still have a voice and it works. So, that's something folks need to pay attention to. There are 82 counties and things like this may happen elsewhere.
It's possible.
It's possible, but that's where you have a voice. Pay attention to the notices and what's going on, and because these things are big deals, and it would have affected people in a way that likely was not the desired outcome when the board put this together. So there's some oopsie daisies in there, and we're not perfect. People are not perfect. Things get off track a little bit, and you got to pay attention to that. So I commend the citizens of Rankin County and Ms. Hall for staying on top of that and protecting the people, because those voices needed to be heard, and they were. And it's the good thing about this. You can change course.
There are some photographs that stand the test of time. Think George Bush holding a megaphone, standing on the pile of rubble in the ashes of the towers that collapsed on 9/11. You know the picture that I'm talking about. You've seen it. You've seen the video. But the picture of him standing there surrounded by firefighters and emergency services workers. There are others. Some of them from war, some of them iconic sports moments. The one where Michael Jordan is flying through the air after he took off at the free throw line, getting ready to dunk it one-handed. One of the most iconic photos of all time came from Butler, Pennsylvania this past summer. Donald Trump surrounded by secret security agents with the American flag flapping in the breeze above his head, with his right hand, defiantly raised into the air. The words "fight" coming out of his mouth. That picture, though, not good enough for a Pulitzer Prize. It did not win the Pulitzer Prize for photography. Now, in fairness, a series of pictures taken by Doug Mills of the New York Times won the Pulitzer Prize, and they were phenomenal. They really were. The photo taken by Mills that apparently put him over the top was the one where you could see the bullet frozen in air after striking the ear of Donald Trump as he's going into his immediate reaction. It's that series of photos. But when you have one photograph that captures a moment in an iconic way that will live forever, how does the trophy not go to that picture? I don't know. Those are some of your news headlines this morning. We've got more for you, including some sports stuff coming up next. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hoss and Joe and Adam know every rock and pine. No one works quite or eats like those boys of mine.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. The NFL is coming to our nation's capital. No, not the Washington Commanders. We saw the news last week that there are plans for a new stadium on the old site of RFK. But in 2027, the NFL draft is going to be in Washington, D.C., and the expectation is that over 1 million fans will attend the draft. They released images yesterday at the White House with the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, there alongside Donald Trump, with a rendering of a draft set up on the National Mall with the U.S. Capitol in the background. Josh Harris is the owner of the Washington Commanders. He was there and he said, "I believe we'll get over 1 million people there." Roger Goodell said, "We believe we'll have well over 1 million people when we come here in a couple of years." really a cool backdrop and a cool setting. 2 years ago, Detroit, when it hosted the NFL Draft, drew more than 750,000 people. Just last month, Green Bay attracted over 600,000. For my money, it's hard to top the image of when the draft was in Nashville a few years ago, and they blocked off Broadway, and you kind of had the buildings lining both sides of the streets with the whole setup. Really cool. But it's 2027. Going to be in Washington, D.C. And that old RFK Stadium site is just 2 miles from the U.S. Capitol building. So they're going to get out of Landover, Maryland, and back into D.C. President Trump is weighing in, perhaps, on college athletics, but there are some who have been calling for months, if not years, for legislative intervention in college athletics who are now saying, hey, you stay out of this. On Thursday of last week, Donald Trump spoke at Alabama's commencement ceremony. He was introduced by Nick Saban. The two met before the introduction took place, and Saban expressed concern about the amount of NIL dollars, name, image, and likeness dollars, which is a complete misnomer. It's pay for play that is added to the college sports landscape. That was according to the Wall Street Journal. Legendary coach said he thought it was damaging college athletics. Trump agreed and said he was going to consider drafting an executive order telling aides to start studying what that could look like. Everybody from the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference to state leaders, athletics directors have for multiple years now been saying we need a national solution that comes from Congress. Which I've always thought you better be careful what you wish for if you want Congress to decide what college athletics is going to look like. Not everybody is for this. Not everybody is for this. The NCAA is waiting on the House settlement decision in which they're going to get some clear direction about how they can move forward in terms of sharing revenue generated in college athletics with the players. But lawyers on the player side of things are saying, nope, this is too late in the process. Really don't need this in college athletics. We really don't need the president to put together an executive order. The players negotiating with the help of the courts are doing just fine. Thank you very much. So we'll see if there's an executive order that comes from the White House dealing with college football. You remember last week the man who fell from above the Clemente wall in Pittsburgh at PNC Park? Scary scene. Play was going on and stepped up, lost his balance, and went over the wall. He lay there motionless on the ground for an extended period of time. His name was Kevin Markwood. Slipped off a railing and down onto the field. It was a 21-foot fall. Took his first step yesterday. A close friend who is kind of walking with him on the healing journey said he still has a long way to go. He's dealing with a broken neck, clavicle, and back, so there are plenty of obstacles ahead, but he's showing real strength, and we're staying hopeful for a smooth recovery. Will require plenty of rest and following instructions from the great doctors, nurses, and staff at the hospital there in Pittsburgh. A GoFundMe account had raised nearly $41,000 for him in the aftermath of the fall. I mentioned this yesterday. The SEC softball tournament begins today in Athens, Georgia. One of the SEC teams from here in Mississippi will be playing. Ole Miss in Game 2 is the 11 seed. Will take on Missouri. First game of the day is Kentucky and Georgia. Auburn and Alabama will play in the game this evening. Mississippi State will wait to play until tomorrow in the second round. They've got Game 1 of the day, 10 o'clock Central Time start against LSU. Mississippi State is the 8 seed playing the 9 seed LSU. The winner of that game will meet the number 1 overall seed and the 4-time reigning national champion Oklahoma Sooners. All of that in Athens, Georgia, televised on the SEC network. D1 Baseball released its new top 25 yesterday. There was no change at the top, with Texas remaining the number 1 team in the country, despite being swept by Arkansas last weekend. Florida State's up to number 2. LSU is 3rd. LSU lost a series to Texas A&M. North Carolina 4th, Oregon up to number 5. Then a trio of SEC teams at 6, 7, and 8, Georgia, Arkansas, and Auburn. Vanderbilt moved up to number 11 after their series win at home over Alabama. Coastal Carolina is number 14. They are the top-ranked team from the Sun Belt Conference, currently in first place, 2 games ahead of Southern Miss, who is ranked 21st in the most recent poll. Tennessee 15, Oklahoma, who won a series against Ole Miss in Norman this past weekend, is 17. Alabama 23, Ole Miss is 24, still hanging there in the top 25. You want some? This is just a nugget I came across.
I love it too. What a
fun
good piece.
Facts about the great Ty Cobb. He faced a bunch of Hall of Fame pitchers in his career. Names like Walter Johnson, Babe Ruth, George Sisler, even Cy Young. His best batting average against a Hall of Fame pitcher was against Jack Chesbro. Had 23 hits and 54 at-bats, hit .426.
Owned him, yeah.
619 hits in 1,815 at-bats for a batting average of .341 in his career against pitchers who ended up in the Hall of Fame.
There's only one of them on there that he didn't get a hit from.
He was 0 for 6 against George Sisler in his career, 1 for 4 against Clark Griffith.
And you think of it, the guy that had the best was between Wade Hoyt and Addie Joss. He had 265 and 266 against both of them. One of them had 98. He had 98 at bats against Hoyt and 94 against Joss. So those are the two that seemed to have his number a little bit.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he pretty much owned a lot of Hall of Famers, man. Goodness gracious. 341? Come on.
Every Hall of Fame pitcher that he faced in which he had more than 100 at-bats against, he had an average of over 300. Hall of Fame pitchers held him to a 341 batting average. The rest of the pitchers that he faced for his entire career, 372. Ty Cobb could hit, brother.
Yeah, probably.
He could swing the bat.
I don't know how big a bat he was using, but those dudes back in those days were swinging timber.
Yeah.
Like they'd pick up a telephone pole, cut off the ends of it, and they're good to go.
The couple of scores from the NBA playoffs going on, if you care about that. In the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Knicks beat the Celtics 108-105 to go up 1-0 in the series. That was in Boston. And in Oklahoma City, Denver stunned the OKC Thunder with a 121-19 win. Pacers are at the Cavs tonight. Indiana leading that series 1-0. And Warriors Timberwolves get started tonight in the Western Conference semifinals as well. That game in Minnesota tips off at 8:30 tonight. I
almost forgot the playoffs were going on until I looked on Friday, and I was like, oh, yeah.
I know.
Thought they just stopped.
They're off and rolling. C-Spire text line, Brandon in Boonville, I agree that everyone has their opinion about NIL, but in my opinion, it has ruined college athletics. Loyalty no longer remains as it once did. The problem asking the government to get involved. Who in the NCAA benefits from NIL? It's a mess. It is a mess. I suppose the whole ruining of college athletics depends on your perspective. I don't think the players would think that. They've got more freedom, and it is more lucrative for them than it's ever been. Coaches still seem to be making lots of money. Job a little bit harder than it used to be. Fans are the ones, though, that probably have lost out the most. They are being asked in a lot of cases to foot the bill while also still buying tickets and making donations and traveling and filling up stadiums. A tough road right now. Maybe we'll get some stability.
From the better
where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP. You're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Is my phone listening?
Always.
I was just scrolling through the curated feed on X, the For You category. This post was made 14 hours ago, but it is just now on my feed. What is the most iconic sports photograph ever taken? You want to guess what the picture is, Lance?
Iconic sports photo. I don't know. Well, which one?
What did we just talk about? Michael Jordan sailing through the air, ball in his right hand, hitched back behind his right ear, getting ready to dunk it as he flies through the free throw line. We just talked about that a few minutes ago, and there it is.
There you go.
Hello, phone. Good morning to you.
I love it when you're out working in the yard and you got your phone on. And here's you hammering and doing stuff, and then all of a sudden you get like a commercial that's perfectly catered just for what you're doing. You're like, hold on now.
Hey, phone, would you make the link to listen to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi readily available for anybody that wants it? See how smart it is.
There you go.
See how smart it is. Let's get you a lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, mslottery.com. The estimated jackpot for Lotto America on Wednesday night is $32,800,000. The estimated cash value has now climbed over $15 million. No winner on Monday night. The numbers were 5, 13, 20, 22, 28, star ball of 5, all-star bonus multiplier of 2. That jackpot has been growing now for over a year. We had no jackpot winner for Powerball last night. Wednesday night's drawing, $65 million. Cash value just a hair under $30 million. Monday night's numbers were 16, 34, 40, 45, 66. The Powerball was 19. And the Power Play multiplier was 2.
Well, double play numbers from Monday, May the 5th, 21, 26, 28, 62, 63, Powerball of 1. And Mega Millions is up to $90 million for tonight's jackpot, May the 6th. $40 million you get to take home, a little over that. The numbers from the Friday drawing, 14, 37, 40, 41, 68, with a Mega Ball of 2.
No Mississippi Match 5 winner. The jackpot for tonight, $273,000. Monday night's drawing, 3, 4, 19, 23, and 35.
Cash 3 $500 Monday numbers for the midday, 918. The evening, 949. Cash 4 $5,000 midday prize, 1150 the numbers. Evening, 5116. Fireball of 1 and a cash pop of 2 for the midday. The evening fireball of 9 and a cash pop of 3.
The saying goes that April showers bring May flowers. Here's hoping that May brings rain, like making it rain. Winnings on you from the Mississippi Lottery. They're turning up the heat in May starting today. 3 brand new scratch-off games hit retailers. Heat Stroke, Blazing Hot Bucks, and Red Hot Cash. Top prize is up to $200,000. Even better, if you don't win, you can still win. Enter your non-winning tickets into the lottery's newest bonus promotion, Sizzlin' Summer Cash, for your shot at prizes from $500 gift cards all the way to $25,000. 6 bonus drawings start May 21st. Don't miss out. Visit mslottery.com and click on the bonus promos tab for full details. And don't forget the adrenaline continues with the 2025 NASCAR Powerball Playoff. Mississippi is sending 15 lucky winners into the high-speed action. 2 more winners will be announced this Thursday. That's coming up May 8th. Each will receive a $4,000 cash prize plus a $1,000 early bird bonus. That's $5,000 in total. You have until 9 a.m. on Thursday morning to enter. To sign up, become a Mississippi Lottery Insider at mslottery.com. All winners qualify for the National NASCAR Powerball Playoff. Speaking of winners, how about you give us a few?
Cash 4 winners. We had a ton of them. I'm going to skip down to a couple of the bigger ones since we have a nice list today. But we had a $2,700 winner from Prosciutto Man. Ticket purchased at Alliance Travel Center. A Pearl Man won $2,900 on a ticket from the Circle K store in Pearl. A Terry Man, $5,000 richer, purchased that ticket at Byram Gas. And a Jackson Man won $5,000 on a ticket bought at the Blue Sky Store, $650 in Jackson.
Another Terry man won on Cash Pop, $1,000 on a ticket from AK Main Street in Liberty. Columbia man, $1,000 on a ticket from TG Mart 1 in Columbia. Jackson man, $1,000 on a ticket from Don Gabriel Market in Jackson. I don't know if there was any need to roll the R there.
I liked it, though, yeah.
Byron woman, $1,250 on a ticket from Brando's Tobacco Store in Byram. $2,500 to both the Clinton woman and a Starkville man on tickets that they bought in Clinton and in Starkville.
Match 5 winner, $800 on a ticket from Corner Fuel. A Hattiesburg man won. A Mega Millions winner, $1,000. Won there in Fulton. I'm sorry, in Hattiesburg, and then the Smithville man won $1,000 on a ticket from Fulton Tobacco Mart in Fulton on the Mega Millions.
That is your Mississippi Lottery update. Find all the information you need about the lottery online at mslottery.com. Guests coming up this morning in the 7 o'clock hour, about 25 minutes from right now. Senator Nicole Boyd will join us. We'll talk with her about a cause that is near and dear to her heart. A couple of pieces of legislation that were passed as it pertains to special needs and specifically autism spectrum disorder bills. Also, Rochelle Hicks from Visit Mississippi will be by in the 8 o'clock hour. 1 hour in the books. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, well, you're not on that island all by yourself. That's where MWG Employer Services come in. They will throw you a lifeline. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. How do you get in touch with them? Well, it's easy. You can give them a call, 601-206-7966, 601-206-7966. Or visit them online at mwgemployerservices.com. C-Spire text line is the best way for you to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you, 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go, backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. On the C-Spire text line, I hope your daughter makes 100 on her driver's permit test after yesterday's rant. That is Ed, a Mississippi driver's ed teacher. Thanks, Ed. Lance, I lost it a bit yesterday afternoon on the radio.
Uh-oh.
So, big girl turned 15 yesterday. And when you turn 15 in Mississippi, that means it's time to go get your learner's permit. And supposed to be at the office by 4:30. They were going to get you in the queue and get you taken care of. And she arrived at 4:29, and they said, "Nope." It's like, what do you mean? Stop seeing people at 4:30. Well, it's 4:29, and the office doesn't close till 5. Nope. So, we will, I suppose, try again today.
There you go. Well, you get to sleep. She gets to sleep on it, and she'll be even more excited. You know how that is. Those times. My nephew, I think I don't know if he passed the first one or not. So you're wishing for a high score on the driving test, especially if you got to punt for a day and you were all juiced up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Is she excited about it, or is she nervous? Like, how does that fit?
Oh no, she's excited about it.
Good.
She is. She's ready to get that little card to stick in her wallet. Yeah. I guess we all were.
Oh, I'd loved it. I mean, that was the most freedom that you ever understood as a kid, was having that car.
Absolutely.
And then on the other side, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, your parents would dangle those keys in front of you and say, hey.
Why don't you let me hold on to these keys for a couple of days?
Yeah, let me hold on to those for a minute.
Yeah. I guess that potential punishment was there for me as well. The first vehicle that I had that was all my own. So I shared a little Nissan pickup with my dad for a while. I had a 1990 Chevy Blazer. Two-door. Had the old 4.3-liter V6 in it, four-wheel drive.
That's all you needed?
Didn't have to have a key to crank it, buddy. No. All you had to do was just turn the ignition switch, and it would crank right up.
Just breathe on it, right, and then you had it. You had a 76 Chevy. That was our hunting truck. I loved it.
Yeah.
And that was, but eventually I got my own vehicle. But that first year driving the hunting truck, man, I couldn't have been in a better state of mind. High cotton, buddy. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Somebody says that's typical for our DMV. Thomas says, "Yay, government." Yeah, it was pretty frustrating. Pretty frustrating.
Hey, and I can tell you from my experience in the Oxford one, it gets pretty busy too. You can get there and you can spend a good bit of time just getting a license. And it's not that they don't work fast or hard. It's just, there's big demand up there.
I think some work faster and harder than others.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it is government work. So,
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed yesterday the active duty military to shed 20% of its 4-star general officers as the Trump administration moves forward with deep cuts that it says will promote efficiency. However, critics worry that it could result in a more politicized force. My first thought there is, could it be much more politicized than it already is?
Kind of what I was thinking.
Like, it's not really giving you the results that you want. Why not try something else? Hegseth also told the National Guard to shed 20% of its top positions and directed the military to cut an additional 10% of its general and flag officers across the force, which could include any 1-star or above officer of equivalent Navy rank. The cuts are on top of more than a half dozen top general officers that President Trump or Hegseth has fired since January, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They've also fired the only 2 women serving as 4-star generals, the AP writes, as well as a disproportionate number of other senior female officers. They don't actually outline those numbers. They just say that it is a disproportionate number, and we should believe that. So, it may very well be the case, just no numbers there to back it up. Hegseth said the eliminations were a reflection of the president wanting the right people around him to execute the national security approach we want to take. In a memo announcing the cuts yesterday, Hegseth said that they would remove redundant force structure to optimize and streamline leadership. The aim was to free the military from unnecessary bureaucratic layers. Now, opponents came out in a big way, including Representative Seth Moulton, a Democrat from Massachusetts. He's a Marine who served in Iraq and is now on the House Armed Services Committee. He says that Hegseth is trying to politicize the military, creating a formal framework to fire all the generals who disagree with him and the president. Hegseth has not been shy about his opinion on how the military should operate. Moulton says that it's essential that our troops understand they are getting constitutional orders, not political orders, because otherwise you don't have a democracy. Otherwise, you have a military that just works well for one political party or another. See, this is where I perhaps would most disagree with Representative Moulton. You may or may not. The job of the military is not to work well for one party or another. The job of the military is to be a lethal fighting force that protects the interests of the United States at home and abroad. And I would argue that certainly parts of the military have deviated pretty significantly from that mission. There are about 800 general officers in the military. Only 44 of those are 4-star general or flag officers. Army has the largest number of general officers, 219 of them, including 8 4-star generals. If you are trying to cut spending, and by the way, Scott Bessent has laid this out in a pretty easy to consume, logical way when he talks about reprivatizing the economy. What he's saying is that we need to reduce government spending and create an economy that allows regular people to succeed. It's almost as if anything that comes from this White House, Democrats are against, period. And when I say it's almost like that, like almost being about 99% of the time.
Yeah, I think one of the hidden gems in that is the right to repair piece of that Hegseth is proposing, where you don't have to actually hire the original manufacturer or contractors to fix your equipment, which leads to extremely high costs. Mm-hmm. I thought that was one of the little hidden gems in there, where, but that's me,
I had to buy some lawnmower parts yesterday. Need to put a new oil filter on the lawnmower. Need to replace the spindles on the deck. And I need to replace the drive belt. Just decided to kind of do it all at once. The drive belt broke the other day. And I looked at the cost of a drive belt produced by the manufacturer of the mower. It was about $120. So I got the part number, and I plugged it into Amazon, and I started looking, and there was an OEM part that was available for $32. So for a quarter of the price, I can get a belt that's probably about the same quality. And if it's not exactly the same quality, I can buy 3 more of them for what it would cost for the manufacturer belt. And so, like, in my personal life, I was like, hey, can I save a little bit of money by going a slightly different direction? Yeah. Am I going to get the same result? I think so. It's no different than what they're doing at the government right now. It's like, hey, can we do this for a little less and still get the same result or similar result? Yeah, maybe so.
From the Venable Glass.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Really appreciate you joining the conversation. If you want to connect, you can do so on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Happy to welcome my first guest this morning. Senator Nicole Boyd represents District 9, Lafayette County, Panola counties in north central Mississippi. She's chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee, vice chair of the Senate Medicaid Committee as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate you coming in studio this morning.
Glad to be here.
April was Autism Awareness Month.
It was.
And you posted something on Facebook last week, and it was maybe a little more personal than some of the things that you put up. If you don't follow Senator Boyd on Facebook and you're in her district, you certainly can do that. Or even if you're not in her district and you want to keep up. But your family has been affected by autism. You have a son that is autistic, and you and your husband have had, if not a front row seat, a lower level seat to watch how you guys have navigated that with such grace, and also, from your perspective, with a great deal of advocacy.
Absolutely. So, my family has been in advocacy almost since day one. We started getting my son's services, and when my son was diagnosed, we were originally in Texas. And, he had just turned 2, and he was a child that had regressed. He had skills, and all of a sudden he started losing those skills. And that happens to a percentage of probably about roughly, they say 10 to 20% of that population. And my husband is a medical doctor, and we started seeing things that weren't normal. We had another child, and we started saying these are not normal things that we're kind of seeing here. And we were super blessed and got him into therapies pretty quickly. And there were a lot of things that happened that I can talk about a long time, but basically we were able to get those services immediately in Texas. And he started with intensive ABA therapy services. We had a wonderful child care facility that also worked with us tremendously. And but he started basically about 16 hours a week at the very beginning, trying to build back those skills that he was losing at that time. And the change that you started seeing in my son was remarkable. He became a child that part of this is it's a communication disorder, and they have difficulty communicating. And so he was frustrated because he couldn't get his, thoughts out there, or he couldn't make people understand what he needed. And for the general public, think about your toddler as they're learning to communicate, and it becomes amplified. And so anyway, so we started getting those services, and we saw what a tremendous difference it made in his life. We were coming back to the state of Mississippi. My husband had signed a contract, and we were excited to be able to get to come home to Oxford. I grew up in Oxford, and we started trying to procure the same services in Oxford, Mississippi. And they weren't there. And so we had to actually develop them and bring them in and get people to train people to work with our son and do all of that. And really, it worked out to be a great thing because there was 2 more families who also needed services. And we started basically something that gave services to that. We were really blessed in that process. To be able to do all that and put that together. There were a lot of things that happened, but that was when the numbers, I think there were 1 in 89. The numbers now have increased to 1 in 31.
Wow.
And so you got to think about that. That's almost every class in a school is going to have a child that is on the spectrum. And so we have made a lot of progress, but there's so much more work to be done for these families. And the controversies that have surrounded, Kennedy came out with a very aggressive statement, but he painted the picture for what is going on with some families that have children on the spectrum. I hear from those families, I heard from one yesterday, that he could have kind of described that child that needs services, they need help. And so a lot of people got really angry because that's not their child that they see. Right. And a lot of, it became more about politics as opposed to what is going on with these kids and their families and getting help. So
let me interject there just for a second, because I think you bring up an interesting point in that when you're talking about autism spectrum disorder, there is no one size fits all for this condition that exists in young people and older people as well. Different people have very different journeys with regard to maybe where their child is on the spectrum. Is that accurate?
It's absolutely accurate. And used to, when my first child was first diagnosed, you had a whole spectrum of different names even. You would have ASD, you would have PDD, which is kind of in the middle, and then you would have Asperger's kind of at the higher end of the spectrum.
Right.
And so there is a broad services. It is a snowflake disorder. Every child is completely different. Some children are only mildly affected. Some are significantly and cognitively impaired. And so you don't know where people are on that spectrum. And that is, I was talking to the head of our regional center yesterday, and she has obviously patients that are more cognitively and significantly impaired at the regional center. But she talked about this is a different disorder completely. It's different than Downs. It's different than other intellectual disabilities. These children have completely different needs, and adults that she services have completely different needs. And it's something that is substantially growing in the population, and we've got to make sure that we are doing the things to help these families. For the children that are at the higher end of the spectrum, there is some of them are twice exceptional. They're actually very gifted. If you can help them with the communication skills that they need to function in a work setting. There's some remarkable stories, even in our own community in Oxford, of people who employ people that are very high on the spectrum. They have difficulty in their communication, but what they do and the skills that they bring are far superior than their neurotypical individual. So it is a challenge for us that we need to meet as a state that we don't have great employment rates among those that are disabled. We need to make sure that we are helping people get to work. And also, too, with these families with children with severe autism, we need to help these parents make sure that they can get to work and get these children's services as they're needed.
So one of the things, I guess, that makes autism spectrum disorder unique that we just talked about, that there's no such thing as one size fits all. Each case can be unique. I'm assuming also makes it really challenging to get legislation in place, because it's not like you could just say, okay, people with autism spectrum disorder need help in this particular area, so let's put a plan in place or legislation in place that helps them in that particular area. It's got to be difficult to do that, right?
It's incredibly difficult. One of the things, though, that I'm super excited about, Representative Kevin Felcher, one of the things that we have an autism advisory committee that is appointed by different members around the state that meets. It's actually legislation my dad sponsored years and years ago when he was in the legislature. And so one of the things that they have constantly recommended is that we have a division of autism spectrum within the Department of Mental Health. Most states have this, but it is something that's very core that we didn't really even have one entity that you could go to that says, I need help. Where can I get some direction and help? And so that's what this bill does. So I'm very pleased about that, that will take the case. That was from Representative Felcher, and Massengill Nelson sponsored that in the House. And we're super excited to see that go into law. And then that will help all families across the spectrum. So we're very pleased about that. And then I think I've talked to you about before on this show, to help those individuals that are very high on the spectrum that are working and going to work. I had a constituent named Ellie Snyder from Oxford, who contacted me and said, we need a blue envelope bill here. And I was like, what is that?
Okay, tell me more. What is that? Yeah.
And so what that does is, if for individuals that are on the spectrum that are very high functioning, I've repeatedly talked to law enforcement through the years. We did something where we tried to put stickers that you could have on cars, and people were a little nervous about those stickers that maybe it might point the wrong people in their direction that might take advantage of them. But what this is it literally, when a trooper would stop you, you give them a blue envelope that has all your information in there. And so it helps kind of ease that discomfort when you're getting stopped by law enforcement. And it might just be for a driver's license check. So it's an easy, simple bill. Department of Public Safety has embraced it. So we're very excited about it.
So not a situation where someone with autistic spectrum disorders scrambling for an insurance card or trying to get a driver's license out, and maybe nerves are kind of going along. It's all just, okay, here's my blue envelope.
Here's my blue envelope. So, yeah. And so it's a simple bill, but it'll help those individuals really make sure that they can drive their cars with a little bit more ease.
Let's take a quick time out. We'll continue the conversation with Senator Nicole Boyd on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
It's happening. You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Middays with Gerard Gibbert will be on the road in Ellisville tomorrow. You'll hear about the incredible economic development that's happening in Jones County. They're working hard in the free state of Jones to bring more jobs and investment to Mississippi. Be sure to catch Gerard. Middays with Gerard Gibbert tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. Senator Nicole Boyd is my guest. I got a message from a friend during a break that said, thanks for having Nicole on. We're struggling with resources locally for ASD and related issues. She's been great to assist where she can, and I think there are a lot of people who are dealing with ASD within their family that feel that way. So kudos to you and to your colleagues in the legislature for the work that's being done. And I want to come back to the work that's being done in a second. But you threw the numbers out a second ago that it's gone from 1 in about 90 to 1 in about 30. And I know I'm not using exact numbers there in terms of children who are diagnosed somewhere on the spectrum. Robert Kennedy is, no doubt, Bobby Kennedy, a lightning rod for many. There are lots of people that think some of his takes and some of his ideas are outlandish, and I won't disagree with that. But something has caused the spike and the growth in diagnoses of autism specifically, or ASD. I guess that's the right way to describe it. You mentioned your husband's a doctor. You've studied this deeply and intensely for a long period of time. Is there anything you can point to that you're like, I think maybe it's this, even if all it is a mother's gut?
Well, I think there's going to be a combination of things that we're going to look to. I don't think it's going to be one silver bullet. I think it's going to be a combination of things that kind of have colluded together. And so I think what they are going to bring forth is going to, I hope that they're going to shed some light on it. We really have stuck our head in the sand for so long on this issue, at the NIH and at multiple places, really trying to say, okay, we need to put everything on the table and see what are some of these contributing factors. And so that is not really what's been done. There's been certain things that have been off limits that they really wouldn't try and find out if that had a increase in the number of children. They wouldn't try to do different things because those things have been kind of off the table. And I think with Kennedy, you're going to see that everything's going to be on the table. And that really freaks people out, because I think he is, he's very aggressive about this. And he's long been an advocate for, things that maybe aren't politically or maybe were not popular among some groups. And so I think that he's going to be trying to look to every avenue. So there's some people that, I think that is very welcome.
And that could mean the elimination of food dyes in food, trying to cut back on pesticides and chemicals that are in the things that we ingest. It could be exploring farther vaccinations and whether or not, all of those things are on the table, right?
I think all of those things are on the table. And the thing is, I think we all have to realize this is, epidemic levels in this country. And when you talk to the families I talked to, like one yesterday, a 10-year-old child, and they're having significant disabilities and different things like that. You know that we have to really make sure that we're doing, that we're putting everything on the table and saying, hey, let's figure out what are some of the contributing causes. They've looked at, there's some genes that they know that you find now more in people with autism. It's not all across the board though. It's multiple different factors. And so I think that's why it's made it difficult, is probably there's a number of contributing factors with this. This country, the cost of treatment is going to be astronomical. We've got to find this out. My friends who are doing early intervention say that they are seeing more and more and more kids. That number is based on, the 1 in 31 is based on an 8-year-old. That's how many 8-year-olds. It's 1 in 31 of 8-year-olds in the country. So those that are doing early intervention are seeing more and more. And here's the deal, like, people don't like to hear what he's saying, but what we need to do is put things on the table. We need to figure this out. We need to figure out what is causing and contributing to this huge increase in autism. Some of it is better diagnosis, but it is not. I mean, they've ruled that out long time ago, that it's just better diagnosing. That is probably one little aspect of it, but there is something that is a contributing factor of some type. And so it's probably not one thing. It may be a multitude of things. It may be chemicals and all those different things. So we need to figure it out. And the time has come, and the numbers are alarming and just continuing to grow.
You know, regardless of your faith background, whether you are, well, just whatever you believe in from a faith standpoint.
Right.
Kind of all faiths instruct us to take care of those who are most vulnerable among us. But it's not necessarily the job of government to prop up faith, whether it's Christianity or any other faith. And yet, it does feel like the role of government is to take care of its people. Is government, whether we're talking about the legislature at the state level or Congress at the federal level, doing enough to take care of this particular part of the population that is in need?
Well, I think the first thing, going back to what I said, is government, and through NIH and through research dollars and all that, we need to find out what is causing this. This is imperative that we do this, that we figure out what is causing this. And so that is, I think, absolutely part of the role of government here. I think it's also, too, if government will do this, they will spend a lot less down the road in taking care of people. But I also think, too, to your point, too, I am a Christian person, but I also think, too, it's also the role for us to not just government to take care of things. And there was one bill that was a disappointment this year. In the legislature, I had a piece of legislation in the state of Mississippi. So you have an 89% divorce rate with people that have children with disabilities. That's a high number. Yeah. And so what happens is you have a primary custodial parent, and once that child with the disability reaches the age of 21, the non-custodial parent is no longer responsible for any type of child support. Mm. And that, to me, is outlandish, and it's passed the Senate a number of years. It got killed in the House because they recommitted the bill. And I've been in Gerard and talked about this. You can go back and listen to the commentary on it. But it was because it was just kind of shocking to me when they got up and talked about it. They all talked about that it wasn't going to be fair to that non-custodial parent to have to continue to take care of that child. And it was though there was an expectation that government alone should be responsible for taking care of that child. Now, I don't agree with that. I think if you're a non-custodial parent and you got a child with disabilities, that doesn't automatically stop when they reach the age of 21. Because what it does is it falls back just completely on the custodial person. And so we're going to put it again next year. I hope it passes again next year. I hope it passes next year, because I think that is we're only about one of 6 states that actually still has this. In the other states,
isn't that common sense though? I mean,
absolutely.
Like if you just take the phrase child support on its head, it is the role of a parent that's not necessarily living with the child, or the primary custodial parent, as you use the phrase, to take care of the child. But many people with ASD remain childlike in many ways for their entire life.
Yes. And so it's not, and that, I mean, absolutely. It was one of the things, and it was the most frustrating commentary I've ever listened to, because nobody talked about the child. Everybody talked about that it wasn't going to be fair because it was going to mess up somebody's retirement, or it was going to mess up maybe their way of life, to have to take care of their own child. And and as a parent of a special needs child, and thank goodness for my husband, we've been married 30 years. And I went home and I said, honey, I love and appreciate you, because what I heard there just really was just kind of shocking to me, that you would think that somebody doesn't still have that responsibility. And there was so they recommitted the bill and said it was a bad bill because somebody might be held responsible for the disabled child through their adulthood. And so, and the government, there is some disability and things like that, but we need to be responsible for our children, even those that are disabled when they're adults. So,
two bills passed in the legislature this year. House Bill 807, which was the bill that put the Division of Autism Services within the Bureau of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities at the Department of Mental Health, and then the Blue Envelope Program. Small steps, but steps nonetheless, and we are certainly thankful for steps. I hope you do not grow weary in this fight. It's a noble fight, and I applaud you. I know many others do as well for your leadership on this issue.
Thank you.
Senator Nicole Boyd joining us this morning. She represents Lafayette and Panola counties, talking to us about her personal journey and also the journey in the legislature to make sure the most vulnerable of us have the care that they need. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
More Mornings with Richard Cross right after this.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
But what can you do? I don't know how I'm meant to act with all of you lot. Sometimes I don't try. I just
C-Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. C-Spire, inspired by you. Get this message, says, as a non-custodial parent, children all over 25 years old now, maybe first there should be reform to alimony. Alimony should be for 5 years, so a spouse can go to college and get a degree to support themselves. Then if you are a non-custodial parent, 90% are the dads and who are paying. With a disabled child, they should reform the drop age of 21. Paying for your child should not be a problem. Paying for your ex in perpetuity is a problem. Sorry, I just edited that there at the end a bit, but I think you get the message. I don't think that is an entirely unreasonable take. Like, I don't know that I'm just ready to die on that hill one way or the other. But the premise of what you're saying strikes me as relevant. I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that, though. And you can always point to outlier situations, right? I mean, what if it's a situation where, a wife spent many, many years working to support a husband while he was going through and getting an advanced degree, and that was kind of the deal that they made together, that there would be mutual sacrifice within the confines of a marriage, and then, a marriage ends for whatever reason, and the partner that sacrificed to get the other through whatever it was to get them to a place from a career standpoint where they could live an exceptional life. I guess I think it's something that could be worth looking at. But I don't know that there's necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution to that. Somebody pointed out that I was wrong when I said that part of the role of government was to support its citizens. Said nowhere in the Constitution is the United States government's tasked with taking care of citizens under its rule. To which I quoted, "Of the people, by the people, for the people" carries different meanings to different people. And he said, "You're quoting Abraham Lincoln, not the founders." To which I said, "I need another cup of coffee."
Getting deep this morning.
Yeah, it is getting deep. But, I mean, I suppose you can be either a strict constitutionalist where there is no adding to and no taking away, and if the Constitution doesn't say it, then it's not true, and if the Constitution does say it, then by golly, that is the only thing we go on.
Well, we have that in every religious text and everything. That's just the way it is.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
There's always gray matter in there.
But government has taken on the role, many would argue far too deeply, of taking care of its people.
Yeah, I agree.
And even if the Constitution does not explicitly state that it is the job of the government to take care of its people, whether you like it or not, and I'm not saying this to the texter, I'm saying this very generally, the founding of the United States and its Constitution was based, at least in part, on Christian principles. We were a country that was founded on religious freedom, but also rooted in the Christian faith. And the Christian faith does spell it out quite clearly that we have a responsibility to take care of those. It was central to the teachings of Jesus. Whether you want to go back to the two most basic commands of loving God and loving your neighbor, or you want to go to the more specific instances where Jesus teaches about taking care of children and taking care of widows. I mean, those are principles that are central to our Christian faith, which was part of what our country was founded on. So, yeah, as Lance said, maybe a little deep this morning. I really do appreciate Senator Boyd coming in and visiting with us. Her journey is both personal and professional.
Well, and there is a great need, too, as well, as the numbers suggest. With dealing with kids on the spectrum and the multitude of different forms of that exist.
Ooh, I'm going to grab this message real quick. The Christian church has abdicated its responsibility to take care of others to the government. I would encourage you to find another church. If that is the Christian church where you attend, there is a better place for you, because that is not the case with all churches that practice the Christian faith. It's just not. 8 o'clock hour coming up.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning, the 6th of May. Glad to have you along. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line. Our conversations on the text line vary. Sometimes they're one-liners, sometimes they're memes, sometimes it's slapstick, sometimes it's politically divisive, and then sometimes there's really thoughtful conversation back and forth, and that's a lot of what we've gotten this morning, and I appreciate that. Every sports fan can tell you fast speeds win games. That's why C-Spire brings you fiber home internet, nationwide 5G wireless, and IT solutions that move as fast as your business. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so on the C-Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Time to welcome in Rochelle Hicks. She is director of Visit Mississippi, kind enough to stop by in studio this morning as we celebrate National Travel and Tourism Week. Good morning, Rochelle.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Thanks for being with us as well. What's going on? We are in that time of the year where everything is in bloom. The days are mostly night. Sometimes we have to dodge some raindrops, but it's a pretty spectacular time of year in Mississippi.
Absolutely. It really is. I love spring in our beautiful state and love seeing all the flowers in full bloom. I grew up in Natchez, Mississippi, so, nothing like driving downtown Natchez and seeing all the azaleas in bloom. It's just a gorgeous time of the year.
Yeah. If we could get live oaks to be great in North Mississippi, my wife would she would literally never leave where we live. Just like, if we could just get some live oaks. We got a little farther south for that.
Yep. A little bit of that beach weather.
This is kind of prime festival time of the year for a lot of communities across Mississippi. How do you work in conjunction with our local cities to go along with their festivals, kind of as it relates to the larger mission of Visit Mississippi?
So we promote our festivals and events throughout the year. Obviously, we have a lot going on right now this time of year with the spring and, that time of the year before it gets a little too hot. But we promote our events all throughout the year. We have a wonderful website, visitmississippi.org, that we encourage everybody that's listening to go check out and see all the great things there are to do in our state. Sometimes I think we're all guilty of hearing, there's nothing to do, and there are so many things. I mean, we probably know a little bit more than the average Mississippian about all the things that are going on, but there is never, not any weekend of the entire year, that there's not great things going on around the state.
And a lot of those things are outdoors. I'm curious. I've heard of other states kind of in our general geographic region that are really focused on outdoors tourism and bringing people in, whether it's to fish or hunt or hike or just take advantage of the natural resources. How much of a focus is that for you, for your office, for Visit Mississippi?
So outdoor recreation is a big priority for us. Since I've been in this role for a little less than 2 years, we created the Office of Sports and Outdoor Adventure specifically for that reason, because you're right. When we look at other states who are our competitive states and what they're doing to really promote sports and outdoors in their communities and their states, we have so many assets in our state that we have, great sporting facilities all around the state. We have incredible state parks. We're working right now with the state parks to help promote their renovations they've been doing in the cabins around the state. So, we have so many wonderful outdoor assets, and we've always promoted those, but we really are making that a priority.
When you think about the geography of the state, I mean, we've all heard people go, from the Delta to the hills, but when you look at kind of the unique way that our state is constructed, whether it is the Delta or the hills in North Mississippi or the Pine Belt or coastal Mississippi, there's a lot of really, really unique stuff and things that I feel like a lot of people that live here and have lived here for a long time don't even realize that we have right here in Mississippi.
Well, it's funny you say that. In my notes here, one of the things that I wanted to point out to everybody listening today is to be a Mississippi tourist this summer. Get out. There are so many things that we all have in our own backyard, and we just don't always know about all the things that we have. So we encourage people to check out our website, go visit a museum that you've passed many times on a weekend road trip with the family. Consider Mississippi beaches, state parks, our zoos, our incredible, we have so many great museums all around in the capital city, on the coast, all throughout the state, in the Delta. And, we are always, we don't always, go see the things that are in our own backyard. So we encourage you, before you maybe go see a state park in another state, go see some of our beautiful state parks here. Go to Tishomingo. You know, there's so many wonderful things to see.
Yeah, there certainly are. We're visiting with Rochelle Hicks. She's director at Visit Mississippi. So in terms of your priority list, where's your biggest focus right now? Or maybe the top couple of things on that list?
Well, our priorities this year, our focus is on music. So we have one of our pillars, obviously, is music. We're the birthplace of America's music. So, you know, you've seen our state highway signs that say birthplace of America's music. That was penned years ago. And so we are coming back to that slogan, so to speak, and we're really, you know, touting why we are the birthplace of America's music. We are celebrating B.B. King and Elvis Presley, who B.B. King would have been 100 this year in September, and Elvis Presley would have been 90. So we kicked off this campaign with the Rose Parade on New Year's Day, where our float performance was viewed by 850,000 people and more than 28 million people in the U.S.
So Mississippi had a float in the Rose Parade?
Yes, for the first time ever.
Really?
And
tell me more about that.
It was just a wonderful experience. The reason that we did it was because, again, the numbers I just touted, that there were 28 million television viewers in the U.S. alone. That was not counting the other 60 countries that it was streamed worldwide. So, you know, the Rose Parade is one of those just iconic things that, you know I've always grown up watching, you know, on New Year's Day before the football game. And so we, you know, as we're trying to market Mississippi on a national scale and a worldwide scale, we, you know, we're like, this is a good idea for us to get out and show people what Mississippi's all about. And that's exactly what happened. We were out there, like I said, 850,000 street-side spectators. Yeah. A lot of people, you know, don't think about Mississippi as a destination, but I think that we really made people think about that, and they were like, wow, I want to go. And, you know, we had some great interviews while we were out there and just really had some great conversations. And so we were really proud of the way that Mississippi was portrayed at the Rose Parade, and we had just such great feedback, and so we're excited and, you know, going to do it again next year. So, all
right, so what was the float like? Because I'm thinking, like, high school homecoming parade, it's hard to get a trailer with, you know, crepe paper or whatever else on it from my house to the middle school where kids are going to jump on it. I'm assuming this is not a float that was built in Mississippi and then transported to California, was it?
No. So there are only 2 float builders out in California that build the floats for the Rose Parade.
Really?
And so, you know, we got to interview both of those float builders. And so basically they start, they're working on our design for the 2026 float right now.
Yeah.
Once we get, you know, the preliminary designs, we'll kind of look at that, tweak it as we think we need to, and then they will start building it. They have, I don't even know the number of volunteers, but, you know, tens of thousands of people that actually work throughout the year to build the float. They start with the things that they can go ahead and put on the float, like seeds and, you know, different things like that. And then the fresh flowers obviously go on the week of. And it was just really an incredible thing to see and witness. I mean, it's just...
Did you ride on the float?
I did not. We had Governor Tate Reeves and his family on the float. And then we also had Chapel Hart and Brandon Bennett. Chapel Hart, we had a mashup of a B.B. King and Elvis, you know, famous songs. And so they, the two groups, you know, did an incredible job of doing a live performance. And that was the reason that we did it, was because we had a live performance on national TV for 3 minutes. That's not something that in our budget we could normally afford. So that's something that we were able to do as part of the Rose Parade that just gave us this this platform to showcase Mississippi. And so, like I said, 28 million viewers, you know, national broadcast on ABC, NBC. So it was just really, it was really successful, and we really are excited about it.
Rochelle, I feel like you might want to throw something at me for not knowing about this or remembering about this. I mean, like, I feel like I'm pretty keyed in and pretty locked in on what's happening in Mississippi. Lance, can you help me out here? Do you remember this? Did you know this?
No.
Okay. So I'm not on an island of one, at least.
Well,
this is fantastic.
Yeah, we were really excited when we saw all of the you know, positive publicity that we had back at home here. But, you know, hearing you say this, that makes me think, we need to do a better job of letting our Mississippians know what's coming up as well. So I was just going to point out that...
And we can help with that. I tell you what, can you hang through the break and
Absolutely.
We'll visit some more? More with Rochelle Hicks coming up. She's Director, Visit Mississippi. I promise I'm telling everybody that Mississippi has a float in the Rose Parade this coming year. We're back right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome to the show. Strange but not a stranger. I'm an ordinary guy. Burning down the house.
Rochelle Hicks, Director at Visit Mississippi, with us this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. However you're listening, wherever you're listening, whenever you are listening, we appreciate you making us part of your morning or your day or your evening if you happen to be listening on demand or on the podcast later on. So, Rochelle, you were going to jump in, I think, with a couple of more things in terms of we talked about initiatives, things that you're focused on, things that are going on right now in the Visit Mississippi office.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, as we're celebrating National Travel and Tourism Week this week, we want to just showcase the importance of tourism in our state. In Mississippi, we had 43.7 million people that visited Mississippi in calendar year 2023. And that generated $11.5 billion in state and local taxes. Tourism is the fourth largest industry in Mississippi, and we're proud of our wonderful things that we have to do here in the state. But we just want people to realize how important tourism is to Mississippi. 133,000 plus jobs in our state that are related to tourism.
There was some debate this year in the legislature about whether tourism kind of stayed as it was or kind of became its own department. I think you and I talked about that a while back, and ultimately going to kind of stay as it is right now. Is that a good place for Visit Mississippi to be as it exists kind of structurally?
I think there's, an opportunity for us in the future to be a standalone agency. We've had some great conversations this year. I think this year's session really helped us to, kind of figure out what that would look like. So, we're excited about the future and what that might look like in the future, and we'll see next session.
Yeah, certainly we'll keep that in mind. I guess the big thing is, though, if you become a standalone department, an agency, then the funding has to follow it, right? I mean, it can't be something that's in name only. If you're going to do it, you've got to go all the way, completely dive in.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the conversations this year, is that just making sure that if we were to become our own standalone agency, that we have the money and the employee count that we would need to do that. So I think that's what we'll focus on for next session, and really looking at that in detail and having a little bit better handle on what that would entail.
Hey, by the way, even though I dropped the ball, our news team didn't. JT Mitchell right there, story on SuperTalk Mississippi from January 2nd. You had the Sonic Boom Band from Jackson State that was there at the Rose Parade as well, and the float, which really was incredible. I mean, and I think I vaguely remember the Crossroads
yes.
insignia, the big sign right there in the middle of the in the middle of the float. Is that – it's a big question. Is that the most famous landmark in Mississippi?
Ooh, I don't know. You could get me in trouble with that. I don't know.
I could anger lots of people with that question, but I just think about it in terms of – because of the rich music history, because of the blues, because of the international attraction – to the Delta and the Blues Trail. It just feels like there are people worldwide that recognize that 6149 Crossroads.
Well, I will say it definitely is an iconic landmark for Mississippi. A lot of people don't realize that we do market internationally, and because our music heritage is something that people from all over the world come to see. I mean, you could go to Clarksdale, Mississippi any night of the week, 7 nights a week, and there's going to be live music, and there's going to be somebody from another country walking the streets of Clarksdale. It is our music, is something that people love and want to see, and they love our culture and our food and our music, and it's all the things that make Mississippi, who we are.
What does that look like in terms of international marketing?
So we have, we have companies that we work with in the UK, in Germany, in France that work with us day in and day out to promote Mississippi. We do sales missions, in different areas. We did a sales mission to Germany this year. Obviously we're watching all the, travel situation right now with, but we stay on top of that, and we really work hard to promote Mississippi, not just in the U.S., but worldwide.
Visiting with Rochelle Hicks, director at Visit Mississippi, just for a couple of more minutes. And I'm assuming that, correct me if I'm wrong here, that one of the most important parts of your job is to decide how Visit Mississippi allocates its resources, right? Where do you market? Where do you spend money? You talked to us about the decision for the Rose Parade, and kind of a calculated, hey, this is how many eyeballs are going to be on it locally. This is how many eyeballs are going to be on television. When you're going through that process of trying to decide how to spend the money that you've got and how to
allocate those funds.
Yeah, well, allocate the funds, but even more specifically than that, use targeted advertising versus kind of like widespread or broad spread advertising, because that's a world that's changed. How does that process work for you?
Yeah, we have to look at that, and we have to, we don't have as large of a budget as other states surrounding us, so we have to be very mindful of that and very thoughtful about how we spend our money and what we spend our money on. So, we are looking at things right now that have the reach that we necessarily haven't done in the past, like the Rose Parade. Yeah. We just worked recently with Playing for Change, which is an organization and that has musicians around the world. So we released a new song called Around the World Crossroads on YouTube just last month. And right now we currently have over 27 million views across YouTube and social media, which is 2.2 times higher than their usual views. I encourage everybody listening to go and check it out. It's an amazing song. It's an amazing video. We have a lot of our Mississippi musicians on the song, but we also have musicians that are literally all over the world playing in different parts of the world. You can go check that out at visitmississippi.org/go/crossroads. So I encourage everybody to go check that out. We also have a new podcast that we're rolling out in the next 2 weeks called Mississippi on the Map. We're really excited to be partnering with Mississippian Charlie Worsham, who is currently the CMA Musician of the Year. He is our host for the podcast, and we're going to have some really, really exciting guests on our podcast. We're going to have 12 episodes this first season. So, please go, to our socials and you'll be able to follow along and see as we unveil who those first guests are going to be. But, there's some really incredible guests that we're going to have that are going to speak to why Mississippi is birthplace of America's music.
A lot of great stories to tell. No question about that.
So many great stories.
Last thing I'll leave you with here or ask you about here is, Mississippians have gone on to be great everywhere they've been, whether we're talking about athletic fields or writers in the literature world or artists or musicians or actors or doctors or just like the entire gamut. And so we see Mississippians kind of going out to all of these other places. But when you think about planning like a family vacation, I mean, people go, well, I'm going to the beach. And they, think, okay, that's a Florida beach. Or I'm going to the mountains, which means you're going west. What do we do to get people to say, I'm going to fill in the blank for Mississippi? Because it's like they're all of these great things, but how do you boil it down to this is the thing that is the hook to bring people to Mississippi?
Well, you're right. I mean, there are so
Maybe
many.
That's the challenge every single day.
That is
right?
our challenge every day. And like you said earlier, our state is so diverse in the types of activities and things that we have to do. So, we have to speak to that. We have, one of the things that we've found really interesting out in, Pasadena for the Rose Parade is that so many people don't realize that we have beaches. So that's our job to educate, the consumer that they can come to Mississippi and go see a beautiful beach and go stay at, at a fabulous hotel and eat amazing meals and go see the aquarium and all the things to do and see. We have just our Delta. We have our, North Mississippi with Oxford and Starkville. And, there are just lots of things to see and do. But we do encourage people in Mississippi to get out and go see those things.
I love that.
A friend of mine a few summers ago, I thought this was a really cool idea that she and her family decided to, every weekend during the summer that they went to a different place in Mississippi. And I just love seeing her post and, things that her own kids got to discover about our state that, we're all guilty of, like I said earlier, of not always knowing everything that we have in our own state and what's in our own backyard. So we encourage people to do that. We have great socials. Go to Visit Mississippi on socials and follow us. Visit Mississippi.org. MS on the Map. Go follow our new podcast socials and more coming on that very soon. And then also America 250 is coming up next year. So we'll have to come back and talk about that.
Can't wait for that. No, it'll be a great party. It's National Travel and Tourism Week. Great conversation with Rochelle Hicks, Director at Visit Mississippi. Thanks so much for your time. Great to see you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me.
We've got more on Mornings with Richard Cross coming up next with you.
Out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And I don't feel nothing at all. And you can't feel nothing small. Honey, I love you. That's all she knows. You've been on my mind, girl.
Mother's Day is this weekend, and Carter Jewelers in Jackson has their annual balloon pop sale offering 70% off and more. Located in downtown Jackson since 1849 on the corner of State and High Streets and at the Pemberton Plaza in Vicksburg. Be sure to check out Middays with Gerard Gibbert this Friday with Carter Jewelers. I'm going to try to say that about 12 times between now and Thursday when we finish up. Mother's Day is this Sunday. Don't forget, put it on the calendar. Write yourself a sticky note. Because goodness knows Mom deserves her own day.
And moms are busy. They'll forget. I had that with mine. I had to remind her. It was this coming weekend. So.
Oh, you had to remind her that Mother's Day was coming up.
Yeah, that was funny. The other day, I said something like, "Hey, what do you want to do for Mother's Day?" And then she goes, "Well, when is that?" I said, "I thought I depended on you for that." And she's just so busy. So mothers do get busy. So remind them if they have forgotten.
There is an interesting thing that is happening in Canada. I told you yesterday. By the way, I promised something yesterday. We're going to push it back one more day. And that is the audio from Meet the Press from Sunday morning. And if you're watching on C-Spire TV, we'll have the video for you as well. SuperTalk TV powered by C-Spire. There are like 3 massive takeaways from the video that Trump did with Kristen Welker. And our conversations this morning were great and ran a little longer than I had budgeted for. And so we'll hold off on that. But there's something interesting happening in Canada. So never mind the whole make Canada the 51st state and Governor Trudeau and the election that they just had and all of those things. The election did not go to the Conservatives. Looked like it was going to be overwhelming. Canadians did not react well to the bluster of the President of the United States and ultimately decided to go with a fourth consecutive term of liberal leadership. Will they rue the day? I don't know. We'll see. But you know that Canada is made up of 10 provinces. And the premier, governor, if you will, of Canada's oil-rich province of Alberta said yesterday that she will hold a referendum on separation from Canada next year if a citizen-led petition reaches the required number of signatures. Now, they can call it separation. I think the word we're looking for here is secession.
Yeah.
Alberta and the people of Alberta are potentially going to vote on whether or not to secede from the country writ large. Danielle Smith, the conservative leader in Alberta, said that personally she does not support the province leaving Canada, and she expressed hope for a path forward for a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. All right, so what's the big issue? Here's the big issue. Alberta has oil. Lots and lots of oil. But Canada has put restrictions in place on what Alberta can do with that oil. And so Danielle Smith said, should Ottawa, for whatever reason, continue to attack our province as they have done over the last decade, ultimately, that will be for Albertans to decide. I will accept their judgment. Mark Carney won the position of Prime Minister in Canada, leading the Liberal Party to a fourth consecutive federal government. Carney and Trump are scheduled to meet today in the White House. So here's the thing. The conservative government, United Conservative Party in Alberta, has just lowered the threshold for a referendum vote. The bill that the party has brought forward would change citizen-initiated referendum rules to require a petition signed by 10% of eligible voters in a previous general election. That number was 20%. And from the time the referendum begins, they have 120 days to gather those signatures rather than 90 days. 177,000 signatures is what is needed. And so that number would have been closer to 360,000, or would be, if this bill passes. Or if it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass, it would be 20% of registered voters, representing about 360,000 signatures, and you got to do that in 90 days. Danielle Smith said, we don't ask for special treatments or handouts. We just want to be free to develop and export that incredible wealth of resources we have, freedom to choose how we provide health care, education, and other needed social services to our people, even if it's done differently than what Ottawa has in mind. Now, there's a university in Edmonton, MacEwan University. John Sorosky is a political science there. And he said there is anger in the province of Alberta, but he isn't sure that it's going to lead to voting to separate. He says these grievances are serious. I think the prospects of separation, though, are highly unlikely.
It was tried, wasn't it tried in 80 and 95, it says?
80 and 95. Quebec had a pair of referendums over separation from Canada, and both of those failed.
But would that have been under the 20% rule? I need to research.
I don't know if that is a Canada-wide rule or a province-by-province rule. So, I mean, I'm far from an expert in Canadian government and exactly the way it works. But it's not exactly the same as 50 states in the United States where the states have their own laws and they're free to enforce those laws. It is to some degree 10 provinces, but they're massive. Massive. So we will see. Both the political science professor Sorosky and Danielle Smith perhaps are following the lead of Quebec politicians who've used the threat of separation when dealing with the federal government. Sorosky said, I don't see Smith wants separation, but I think it's a very useful tool for the province to have in its back pocket, the idea that there's this large number of discontented Albertans. I mean, it's like telling Texas that it can't explore for, produce, and export oil. If there was a federal law in place that told Texas it couldn't drill for oil and it couldn't export it, couldn't drill for natural gas and export it, what do you think would happen in Texas?
They would secede.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry. They wouldn't have any trouble getting 177,000 signatures or whatever the number is, and it wouldn't take them 120 days. But that's what Alberta is dealing with.
And I was digging around on the Quebec deal. That went back a long way, even before they had the two referendums. But it goes back to the 50s and 60s, where promises were made in the political arena that they would give Quebec an opportunity to have equality amongst the other provinces, which led to the potential for them to secede and have sovereignty, which it failed. But at the end of the day, this isn't a new thing, apparently, in Canada, where this has been tried. And it took about 30 years for that movement to kind of die down.
If you need quick geography, like you don't remember...
North of Montana. Just to the east of British Columbia, which is the southwesternmost province in Canada. British Columbia is where Vancouver is. And then Alberta is just to the east of that. But as Lance said, north of Montana may be the marker that you need. 255,000 square miles of land. 7,500 square miles of water with a population of roughly the size of Alabama. About 4.5 million. 4.2 million is the population of Alberta. So, is that roughly the size of Texas? Maybe not quite as big as Texas. It looks bigger than Texas, but that's just kind of eyeballing it. Yeah. Maps can be a little deceiving there with size.
See how quick Google goes. Pretty comparable. Texas 268,000 square miles. Alberta just less than 250,000 square miles. So comparable to the size of Texas with the population of Alabama.
From the
White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I wonder what it's like to be a superhero.
Thanks for spending at least part of your Tuesday morning with us. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. If you missed any of the show, love for you to go back and grab it via podcast or on demand at supertalk.fm. Really good, insightful conversation with Senator Nicole Boyd in the 7 o'clock hour. We talked with her about autism spectrum disorder, something that she and her husband deal with on a daily basis. As their son is on the spectrum, and many, many other Mississippians are dealing with that. A couple of bills that were passed in the legislature this year that are hopefully going to pay dividends and provide some help for those dealing with autism spectrum disorder. And just really good stuff there. If you missed that, love for you to go back and check it out. Of course, our conversation with Rochelle Hicks from Visit Mississippi as well. You can get the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, would love if you would subscribe so that it's right there for you wherever you listen to podcasts every single day. Elon Musk did an interview on Fox News with Larry Trump yesterday, and he unveiled some pretty significant news about fraud by federal workers. Take a listen.
We've actually found there's a lot of people who are federal government employees, they're active employees who nonetheless apply for and have received unemployment insurance.
While they're federal employees?
Yes.
Wow.
And this appears to be at least 100,000 people.
Wow.
100,000 federal workers who applied for unemployment insurance while working. You had the news yesterday of the she wasn't a controller, an analyst who embezzled over $650,000 and is being prosecuted for it. And there are some whispers that the Department of Justice is currently in the process of building cases against those who have committed fraud, whether it's these unemployment claims while working or a lot of the other things that DOJ has uncovered in the last 3 months. There are two things that go along with that, I think. Number one, what was the fraud? And number two, and Lance, this might be the big one, who knew about it?
Yeah, I mean, when you have 100,000 federal workers applying for benefits while they're on the job, somebody told them to do that. Somebody explained to them, hey, you can get away with this. That's all you got to do. Push that button.
A couple of executive orders yesterday from the president. One of them commemorating the United States' participation in World War I and World War II. On Truth Social, Trump said, we won 2 world wars, but we never took credit for it. Everyone else does. All over the world, the Allies are celebrating the victory we had in World War II. The only country that doesn't celebrate is the United States of America, and the victory was only accomplished because of us. Without the United States, the war would have been won by other countries, and what a different world it would be. Therefore, I am hereby declaring a national holiday in celebration of the victories of World War I, where the armistice was signed on November 11th, 1918, and World War II, where the victory date was May 8th, 1945. But then he adds, we will not be closing the country for these 2 very important holidays, November 11th and May 8th, World War I and World War II, because we already have too many holidays in America. There are not enough days left in the year. We were workers then, and we are workers now. Documentation to follow. So the executive order is coming. That was one. And then there was this, another executive order. I don't think we've got time to play this for you right now. But Donald Trump signed an order yesterday to end federal funding for gain-of-function virus research, which many now believe caused the COVID pandemic. That lab in Wuhan that was being at least partially funded by dollars from the United States, if not entirely funded. And it's coming to an end. Although I'm sure there's a federal judge in a district court somewhere that is going to attempt to strike down this federal order, which seems to be happening with basically every executive order that Donald Trump signs. It really is incredible. Donald Trump campaigned on the things that he's doing in office. He was voted into office by a majority of Americans, at least the ones that voted. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, then he's got the federal court system that is not only standing in the way, but is building roadblocks at every single turn. It's almost as if they don't really care what the American people wanted. And oh, by the way, it appears that George Soros, who has been credited with funding district attorneys and the judicial system with his own money, actually got the money through $260 million through organizations that were his through USAID. What a world. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.